It's 5:35, and I would like to call the Germantown Finance Committee meeting to order. Item 1, meeting called to order. Item 2, roll call. Tom Barney.
Here.
And Eric Brown.
Here.
And I am Michael Loth. I am here. Item 3, agenda revisions and approval.
Motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Tom Barney, second by Eric Brown. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. That motion carries. Item 4, approved minutes. Approval of the December 16th, 2024 meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Second.
Okay, motion by Eric Brown, second by Tom Barney to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Item 5, consent review and discuss January vouchers. Brittany Altendorf, please. I know there were a handful of questions.
Sure. The first question was regarding a purchase for $132.29 for fluorescent light ballasts via Amazon.com. The question was regarding converting our lights to LED instead of using ballasts, and the answer is we are in the process of converting to LED, but we still have to replace the lights that aren't converted yet. Mr. Lord might be able to give some more detail on his plan to convert the district to LED or how far we are in that process, but I think some of the sites have a larger amount to convert to LED prior to us being able to stop purchasing ballasts.
Yeah, so that is essentially Kennedy. Yes, so this is for Kennedy Middle School, which has the majority of all of our fluorescent lights left. And we do have a plan for taking room by room out. These ballasts are strictly for during the year, during the season, when a ballast goes out and 2 banks go out in a classroom, just to keep lights on while we don't have time to overturn into LEDs.
Are there, when you're going to LED, are you replacing the entire fixture?
No, it's a direct retrofit.
Yeah, so you're just
So remove loop and tie.
remove old ballasts, put in new bulbs?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, the reason why I asked the question, I thought if you got a bad ballast, maybe we should be sparing the bulbs and just, of course, there'd be a color difference in the classroom, but I think we could just do the bulbs at that time just as easy as replacing the ballasts.
Yeah, and part of it plays in that we didn't actually start in the first week of February, we will, but that maintenance position that typically does that has been vacant for a few months. So again, this is just like a supplies for those immediate needs to tie back in for somebody that just is a color code, go back and forth and
Sure.
get back up and running for the next day or during that day.
Okay,
So
okay.
yeah,
Thank you.
that will not be an ongoing for,
Yeah.
or a pallet like we used to order.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you bet.
The next question that I received, Mr. Lord might want to stay up there, but the next question we received was regarding Charlton Consulting Engineer LLC, constructional engineering services for $2,100. This was in regards to the Kennedy Middle School air conditioning project, and I believe it was spoke about at a Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting a few months back.
Yep. Yeah, this is, I gave a little detail to where we're having some issues, where we ran into a couple of hiccups of where the rooftop unit was going to sit, just because it intertwined between 4 different year builds, and we didn't have the definite in the center, so we had brought in this Charleston, which is a fantastic structural engineer. First time I've worked with him, but very good guy, really hands-on, got in there and helped us out in a quick way. So
Okay, yeah, very good. Yeah, if it was mentioned, I guess I forgot.
I gave it in a detail. I don't think I really hung up on the consultant so much, or roof, but I know we had mentioned it at some point. So.
Yeah, we cover a lot of materials, so, okay, very good. Glad to hear it was checked.
It's still up there. So.
Yeah, hopefully for 30 years.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
The next question we received was regarding a vendor called Hop Skip Drive for $1,770. The question was regarding the use of this vendor and that is similar to a quote-unquote Uber. The answer is yes. When we have students that are not on a full bus, we have the opportunity to look for alternate transportation. We do that with the Pupil Services Department to try to transport at the lowest cost. If we get a bus to go and get one student, they are costed as a route in which we can send smaller vans or vehicles to go get that one student. So this was for a student that lives in Milwaukee, so we weren't choosing to send a bus to get that. But we have used this company for the past 3 years, so it's not a new company to the district. It is only used for those rare occurrences, though. We have another company that we also use similar to this one.
Okay, so you're saying the drivers are well vetted and their vehicles are well maintained?
We have a contract with them that the district has signed, and many districts use this company.
Okay, very good. It's nothing to do with this service. I just heard occasionally that sometimes some of the vehicles, have wheels that aren't round and, the drivers might not be the best, as in running red lights and things like that. So not necessarily for school transport, but other transportation like similar to this.
So similar, and in an Uber driver, you could possibly get a different driver all the time. This is more similar to a bus driver that you continually get the same person over and over again. It's just in a smaller vehicle. So I
Okay.
might have explained that incorrectly.
Okay, yeah, very good. I just, I think every month I look at vouchers and could be something that's been in there, a name like this, and I might not have noticed it, or this name just stood out to me for some reason this time, so maybe we hadn't used them for a while, and that's what, that's why I asked the question.
Yep, that could
So,
be.
I didn't check last month or any other months to see if it was in there, but I will take your word for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Yep.
The next question I received was regarding getting a rebate for using our credit card, our district credit cards, and the answer is yes, we do receive a rebate or cash back for the use of our credit card. It is based on spending, so it's a higher percentage the more you put on the district credit cards. We have been using the district credit cards for years. We have increased the amount that we have used the district credit cards due to the rebate. We get it annually in March, so we don't get it every month. And I'll just give a little brief. In 2021, we got, and these are all approximate numbers, $350 back. That was 2020. 2021, $1,400 back. 2022, $8,800 back. 2023, $9,500 back. In 2024, $10,000 back. Obviously, we don't have 2025 yet. We will get that in March. So using the credit cards are a benefit for us. We still do monitor what is purchased on the credit cards, and we don't purchase on the credit card if the fee is going to be higher than if there's a fee attached to it that would deter us from using the card. Okay. The next question was regarding a purchase for Follett, which is some books that we've purchased. That list of books was sent to the Finance Committee members. I believe all of the members, if I'm not mistaken, and if there's additional questions on those titles, the Teaching and Learning Department would be happy to answer those.
Thanks. I don't have any follow-up on that question.
Okay. And then my final question, I believe, was regarding COBRA claims. The question was, the person that is on COBRA, are they responsible for their premium 100%? Yes, that is true. They are responsible for their premium 100%. We are self-funded, so we do pay the invoices still. They have to cover 100% of the premium. The district does not cover a portion of the premium. Were there other questions that I could follow up on?
I can't think of any.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve the consent to payment vouchers as presented and reviewed.
I will second.
Okay, motion by Tom Barney, second by Eric Brown. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. All right, item 6, reports and updates, 2023-2024 financial audit, Baker Tilly. And there is, let me get the name right here. Miss Wendy Unger, thank you.
Thank you for having me here this evening. Included in your packets, you should have the presentation that you do see currently up on the screen. You should have also received, as part of the audit process, a copy of the audited financial statements and our reporting and insights document. I'll use the presentation to go through both of those documents at a relatively high level. Please feel free to ask questions as we go through. I'll do my best to address those. Very brief agenda, again, going through some audit results. We'll go through some very high-level financial information. I've included a couple additional points in the presentation, items that I think are important for the board and the committee to be aware of, and then I will open it up for any concluding questions. On the next page is where I begin the audit results. So the objective of the audit was to issue an opinion on the financial statements for the district. We've done that. Included in your audited statements is a clean, unmodified opinion. That is the same type of opinion you received in the past, and it is the highest level of assurance that you can obtain from us as your auditors. A clean, unmodified opinion means that the information contained within the audited statements is believed to be materially accurate, that we have followed generally accepted accounting principles, all disclosures that are required to be included within the financial statement document has been, and that accounting principles have been consistently applied. By noting that point, that means that there were no new governmental accounting standards, or GASBs, that were effective for the district or had any implications on the district for FY24. Towards the end of the presentation, I'll quickly touch on one that will be applicable for 25. So again, positive opinion issued and similar to what you've received in the past. On the next slide, this is where we begin some very high-level financial information. Included on this page, as you can see, is the district's general fund. So when we look at this in comparison to what you actually budgeted to have happen during FY24. When you look at the very first row there, that's the revenue activity. So you budgeted $49.3 million, you had $49.8 million of actual, so a positive variance to budget of $526,000. Now there's a couple different reasons for that. You have a category in your financials that's called local revenue, and that's where taxes, investment income, student fees, all of that type of activity flows through there. You were over budget in that category by roughly $294,000. About $200,000 of that was in the form of investment income. The market's been our friend in the past, so very positive results there. The remaining portion was within those student fee categories and just coming in higher than what you had anticipated at the time of budgeting. The other two contributors to that positive variance to budget were in your state and federal revenue categories. So in your state category, you came in $230,000 over budget. You had received some additional grants that weren't anticipated at the time of budgeting. One was a mental health grant, and one was a career and technical education incentive grant. Both of those added positively to the results. In the federal category, you were over budget by $100,000. A couple components to that, but the main contributing factor is just the timing of the ESSER funds and when those monies were received. So again, positive variance within your revenue category. When we move down to the expense category, likewise, a favorable result, $49.1 million of budget, $48.5 million of actual. So you came in $644,000 under budget within the expense category. Again, a couple contributing factors. Building and grounds came in $560,000 under budget. The largest component of that was the HVAC at KMS, so that was $375,000. That wasn't incurred in FY '24. So those were monies that showed that they came in under budget. Also, some positions that were open and that type of items contributed to the remaining portion of that. The other larger component of that favorable variance is open enrollment. Your costs for open enrollment were $205,000 less than budget. So overall, when you put together your '24 budget, you budgeted to add $149,000 to fund balance. You added $1.3 million. So you had a positive swing to budget of almost $1.2 million. Very strong results. General fund ended the year at roughly $9 million, almost $9 million of fund balance. As you can see, I presented the various components of that. Not all of that is money that's just available for spending at your, without some type of restriction. Small portion is non-spendable. Those are prepaids. You have a restricted component, $929,000. Largest portion of that, $800,000 of that, are monies that are set aside for your self-insurance to have some reserves on hand. The remaining portion is money that related to mental health that has yet to be spent. $841,000 is assigned. Again, those are grant monies that have been set aside and earmarked for particular purposes. The remaining balance, $7.2 million, is referred to as unassigned. That's your contingency working capital, represents roughly 15% of your operating budget. We look for that to be somewhere between 10 and 25%. So you're within that range, and again, a very solid fund balance position as of the end of the year. On the next page are the remaining funds of the district. Just very quickly, first column there is your special education fund. $8.9 million of revenue. Keep in mind that a large portion of your special education program is funded via your general fund. You do a transfer in, that was roughly $5.6 million for '24. The remaining portion is federal and state revenue that comes in to support that program. $8.9 million of expenses, had zero fund balance, and that is what is required by DPI, so that is appropriate. The next two columns are your referendum and non-referendum debt service funds. So you collect taxes, there's some investment income in both of those funds, and then you make principal and interest payments on the specific debt of those funds. The non-referendum fund ended the year at roughly $174,000, essentially a break-even year. The referendum fund used some of its fund balance, which was a planned pay down of the debt. $233,000 of fund balance was left as of the end of the year. The capital projects fund, $808,000 of revenue, $500,000 of that is taxes, $300,000 of that came in from the general fund. Small component of expenses during the year, $82,000, and that fund ended at $1.4 million of fund balance. Just a reminder, this capital project fund column includes both Fund 41 and 46, so it does include your improvement trust fund. The very last column, the non-major funds, these are the remaining funds. So this is the food service fund, your community service fund, and your trust fund, your Fund 21. Those funds in total, $2.9 million, almost $3.9 million in revenue. Good portion of that is food service. Roughly $1.7 million of revenue is food. $900,000 is what comes through your Fund 21 in the form of various donations and that type of activity. Expenditures, $2.7 million. Again, largest component, $1.5 million is food. $965,000 was spent out of the trust or the Fund 21. So collectively, those three funds added $231,000 to fund balance and ended the year at $2.4 million. Just a little bit of detail, the food service fund ended at $1.4 million. That saw an increase of $175,000 in its position for FY '24. Trust fund went down a little bit, roughly $5,000, and then ultimately the community service fund, or your Fund 80, went up by $63,000. So again, very favorable results within those funds. On the next page, these are the other information points that I mentioned when I began. Just a couple things that I think are important for you to be aware of. Capacity and ability to borrow. There's a footnote included on page 22 that talks about this in a bit more detail, but you can borrow up to 10% of your equalized value. That equates to roughly $530 million. There's $63 million of general obligation debt outstanding, so your capacity to borrow if you went to the bond market is $437 million as of June 30th. And obviously that number fluctuates as you borrow and as you pay down. The next line item is your OPEB liability. So these are your post-employment benefits. That is detailed on page 32 of your financial statements. Lots of information there. That disclosure is based on actuarial information that the district receives from your actuary. That liability as of the end of the year was $13 million. That's up about $1.7 million from the previous year, and that number fluctuates based on the various census data that they're using, the population of the participants, discount rates, healthcare trend rates. So a lot of data goes into that, and that is evaluated on an annual basis. The next item is your net pension liability. This is the district's participation in WRS. Again, this is data that is provided to us by the employee trust fund. So again, based on actuarial information, at the end of, as of June 30th, this is a $2.1 million liability. That is down $6 million from the previous year. And as I mentioned, on an annual basis, that number fluctuates based on market. When market is very strong, that is a very low liability, or even sometimes it swings to an asset. When it's a larger liability, that means it's not fully funded, and then you share in the liability. Not money you owe, not money you get when it's an asset, but just really your proportionate share of that, the retirement system at a point in time. Also, always remember that's not a June 30 number, that's a 12/31/23 number. The state or the system does their work on a calendar year. Last item on this page, federal and state compliance audit, because the district expends over $750,000 in federal money. You actually spend roughly $2.9 million of federal money and $23.2 million of state money. You are required to have a federal compliance audit, a single audit, a uniform guidance audit. All of them are synonymous. During FY24, we tested Medicaid, ESSER, and the special education cluster on the federal side. And then on the state side, we tested the general aids, which is your equalization aids, and then your common school library fund. Very happy to say no compliance findings were noted in any of those programs. So ended the year, again, very positive from a compliance standpoint also. On the next page, in the last portion of information I'll share with you, this is really information that's contained within that other bound document that we issue, the reporting and insights document. Not a lot of information I need to highlight there. A lot of the disclosures and content is very similar to what has been included in the past. Just a couple things I'll note. The very first point talks about required communication. Very happy to communicate. The district continues to have no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies in internal control, which is essentially unheard of. I mean, we really don't see that a lot with the clients that we work with, and that's just really a byproduct of you having great people on staff with very good knowledge of the district and the reporting that is required under the various GASBs. So again, no journal entries were found as part of the audit process, so very positive results there. The only other item I will note from that communication, again, rest of it being very consistent with prior year, I mentioned when I began new GASBs. GASB, which is the governing board for governments, and they dictate what we have to follow as your auditors. There will be new GASB effective for FY25, and that is GASB 101, and that is the accounting for compensated absences. So if you look at that, compensated absences is vacation pay, holiday pay, sick pay. Don't think it will have a lot of impact on the district, but the district will be required to jump through some hoops and do some analysis and make sure that you're in a good position to adjust your comp absences if need be. And we'll work with Brittany and her team to make sure you're in a position to implement if required for FY '25. But again, that is the only new one that I think will have any impact on the district. And there is some commentary in the document on more about what the new GASBs are about and what type of implication they will have. On the next page, I have included my contact information. I'm very happy to talk with any of you. I know we don't spend a lot of time on this, so I'm happy to talk in more detail if you so choose, but I'd also be happy to try to answer any questions you may have now.
Tom?
It's kind of hard to have a lot of questions when you say that you found no material weaknesses and that we have great people on staff, which is awesome to hear. So appreciate that.
Of course.
I want to thank you for identifying the acronym GASB, because I don't think anybody knows what it is. I do have a question for you on your page 5. That's the one that says summary financial information on the top. So right smack in the middle of the page, there is that $10,287,000 number in brackets, excess deficiency. I think this is related to our referendum. Is that what that number is about?
That is a payment that you made to essentially prepay your referendum debt. So that was money that the district had on hand, took out and prepaid that over to a escrow agent, and they'll hold it until the debt's callable, and then they'll pay the debt off.
Okay, I was pretty sure that's what it is, but
Yep.
if anyone's following at home, I'm certain they're looking at that, wondering,
course.
what the heck is that? The next item was a little third line up from the bottom of the page. It says trust fund. I believe this is related to OPEB?
No.
No?
Nope. So this trust fund, and that's just what the district calls it. We've seen it called donation fund or gift fund. This is the district's Fund 21. This was formed several years ago by DPI. And this really accounts for various transactions that come in from various donors. So there may be a particular project, or like robotics is one we see in a lot of districts where people donate it to that project and then it's spent out of this fund. So it doesn't have any implications on your general fund activity. And yeah, feel free to add. Sure.
I believe also included here are student activity funds.
Yes. Correct.
Okay.
So-
And okay. And so as far as OPEB is concerned, I think we are starting another fund. I don't know if it's called a trust or not, but for future OPEB liabilities.
Sure, so one of the areas on the other side, when she was speaking about fund balance, there was a dollar amount reserved in fund balance for Fund 73.
Oh, okay, so it's back.
We are going to be creating a trust, and that will have to come to board approval. So the first step of that will be coming for board approval in February. So we can't create the actual trust until the board has a motion that we're allowed to create a trust. So that will
Okay.
start in February.
Okay.
So you'll see it on the next year's.
You have some funds planned for that already, I believe, or
Yes.
it's in there? Okay, thank you. That's all I have. I think your presentation was excellent.
Thank you.
Eric, anything?
No.
No? Okay, I think we
thank
are
you.
good. Thank you. See, now I'm worried. I have to look and see if a motion is required.
There is no motion.
No motion. Okay, very good. Item 7, new business, monthly purchases exceeding $15,000. And that's item 7A1. It looks like we got Nick Kleinhofer here. Welcome, Nick.
So hopefully everyone saw the background on this. It's fairly routine. We have a copy machine. This is the large, it's actually known as a press. It does high volume printing. The one we have is about 8 years old now. Probably should have been replaced a couple years ago. It's starting to fail pretty often, which has been a challenge to keep up with that happening. So What we're looking to do is replace the large machine with two medium-sized machines. This purchase would just be for one of them. The next one would be on next year's budget. So I don't know if you guys have any other questions on that or want any more details.
I'm curious, do you sometimes work on the printer or copier, or is that always a call?
Yeah, I have operated it. I don't work on it as far as fixing it. Part of the contract that we have where we're charged per click, which is like how many times a page goes through it, the part of that cost goes towards the maintenance as well. So if we have trouble with it, James Imaging, the vendor, comes out to fix it. One of the challenges with it breaking down, though, has been, since it is older and breaking down more often, there have been times where it took them multiple days to get all the parts needed for it.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Hey, now, Brittany was known to repair tables at one of the
Oh, gosh.
schools. She might be able to, work on the printer on the side or copy machine.
I'll start that.
Yeah.
Next week. I just wanted to add a little bit to that. So this is a very large production machine. Also in our copy center at the high school, we have a smaller, I would call an office machine in there that is used when the machine is down, but obviously cannot keep up to the amount of printing that the large machine would do. So we are replacing so correct me if I'm wrong, we are going to get two medium machines like he stated. One is in this budget year, one is in next budget year. So this machine will be added with the old large machine. So we'll still have the old large machine. This will be a medium machine. Then next year, the large machine will be removed and then we'll have another medium machine, but we'll bring it to the board for approval. But, so we'll still have the backup, the really large machine, if the really large machine breaks down, we'll have a backup that will be able to keep up better than the smallest machine. So
Right.
that's why we're doing it this way, and also for budgeting reasons, because it's approximately $34,000. That's why we're splitting it into 2 different years.
Yeah, I looked at the numbers and checked out the machines online. Easy to do these days. Yeah, it looks like a good all-around, and after next year, we'll have a higher printing capacity than we currently do today, it looks like.
Yeah, and as far as printing capacity, like with the smaller second printer we have now, it's almost not worth using because it's less than half the speed of the large one. And it's like, you can run a job on there and it's just like watching molasses. Like you might as well just not run anything on it and just keep feeding the big one. So having, two mediums with pretty high output capacity will be a nice improvement for us.
Right, so this is, the higher capacity is an interesting subject because when it comes time for paper purchase, we'll be talking about using less paper, so we won't get into that this evening, though. Just something to think about. I don't think we can get away from paper completely, it's just not gonna happen.
Yeah, and even if we're, let's say, using the same exact amount of paper year to year, this will give us more flexibility in making sure that we can keep up with that demand. Like right now, we'll have times where we end up behind if the machine breaks down, so at least this way we'll be able to keep up.
Sure, sounds good. Any questions from anyone? All right, I think we're ready.
Make a motion to bring forward to the Board of Education with a positive recommendation from the Finance Committee to purchase the first device, a Konica 2100, for $34,347.15.
I will second that.
Okay, motion by Tom Barney, second by Eric Brown. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. And one more.
Move we adjourn.
Second?
Motion to adjourn by Tom Barney, second by Eric Brown. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 6:09.